The primary purpose of Innovative AAC Solutions, the podcast, is to educate and inform. The views expressed during all episodes are solely those of the individuals involved and do not constitute educational or medical advice. They are not necessarily the views of Special School District of St. Louis County. We're back with another episode of Innovative AAC Solutions. I'm here with Bridget. I'm Laura. We just wanted to dive into some more supports for you guys. We wanted to dive into some more carryover. That is our season theme that we are so excited to share with you because we know the value. We can't do it on our own, we can't do it in the 30 minutes that we have our students for language therapy, and teachers can't do it in just 30 minutes of a reading activity. We really have to do it throughout the whole day. And I think, they can be overwhelming for teams to think about, Bridget. And I'm just wondering, is there a resource or two that you can think of that might make things simpler for a team that's struggling?
Yeah, so the Stepping into AAC website through Angelman Syndrome, so if you just Google Stepping into AAC Angelman Syndrome, is an absolute wealth of knowledge. It has so much good information. It has parent testimonial videos about how OGCOM has changed their kids' lives. It has a specific principles that they want, communication partners to understand. It also has really nice, succinct, broken down into multiple formats. So 5 days a week, it has like a goal of the day, and it might be as simple as like modeling one word or turning on the device or working on, specific things that are doable in one day. But then it also has a newsletter a week, which is just an amazing resource that kind of helps give more of the overarching themes that could help communication partners. And it also has really broken down nicely for both parents and for anybody in the classroom who is using AAC. So don't think of it as just for parents or just for classroom. It's really something that you can hand over to both and kind of guide folks through. And I think students at the end of the day do better when they have teams who are all on the same page. And this is a pre-made resource that lays out 100 days of AAC for communication partner support. And
Uh,
I got to talk to Christina Loveless, who is helping bridge the gap with other community members so that students can use OGCOM in specifically summer camps. So let's hear from Christina about how we as community members can also, help kids use AAC throughout their entire, day and in the community too.
I love it. Let's dive in.
Everyone, we are here today with Professor Christina Loveless. Would you please give us a little bit of a background on how you got introduced to the field of speech pathology and OGCOM?
Yes, the journey has been long. So this is my 13th year as a practicing SLP, but this is my 8th year as an assistant clinical professor at SLU, where I teach the AAC course to our second year graduate students. And then I do a lab module for our first year students this summer. And then my whole caseload is AAC across the lifespan. And I'll tell you how I got there, try to make it brief, because there's just so much to it. But I started just working in schools and I love it. I loved working in schools. I always say if I wasn't at SLU, I'd go right back. Because I just love working with pediatric clients, but I love to play. So that's part of my personality. But then also just working with adults is fun too, because I get to have just these everyday life conversations and learn them. But I have always had very complex cases ever since graduate school. I've always had an interest in that problem-solving piece. I feel that I would describe myself as empathical. So I love connecting one-on-one with people. And I think we get to do that a lot with AAC because that's how we ultimately become successful with it, I have found. So I started working in schools, then switched to being a contractor. So I was doing PRN at outpatient facilities. So I was working at a school during the day, but then going in the evening to do some PRN work with adult populations, sometimes acute care settings. And then I dabbled with First Steps. I sometimes still work for them. I have two little ones, so it just kind of depends on what chapter we're going through as to if my time allows me to do that. So I've always done home health, and I've always worked for an organization organization at the same time. And then I found myself at St. Louis Public Schools working at Head Start. So it's low income region of St. Louis in the preschool setting. And SLU students were there and they were watching me do group therapies because I had such a high caseload, working with AAC in groups with typically developing kids that had just some typical speech and language needs. And when they were watching me juggle, one of the professors was like, "Would you like to adjunct for us sometime in the summer? I just think that you'd be good for our students because you seem to know how to adapt quickly and get all the kids seen, and everyone looks like they're having fun." And I really, that was like my fourth year in the field. And I was just like, I don't know if I'm ready to teach someone when I'm still learning, but I've learned that teaching also teaches you, it gives right back because I'm always having to stay updated in knowledge. I watch students pass, fail all day long. But then we problem solve a lot, and working in home health at the same time, all my clients use AAC or did use AAC. If they became verbal, they might not use that anymore. And so now that I have a lot of successful journeys under my belt, I feel like I'm able to reflect back and look at, how I got here and why I really have developed a passion for working with AAC. Like I said at the beginning, I absolutely love the connection you have to make with your clients and families because I really think that's the key to open the door to success. And then you look at all the methods that you use. But I've had a lot of successes and failures of my own in pretty much every area you can think of. I've made poor professional decisions. I have made just with collaboration where I thought I was right, but I was wrong, had to amend things, and then reflect back on like, how could I have done that better? I feel really bad that that happened. Also, just clients leave me in the beginning of my career and then having to reflect and go, well, if I would have done this, then this would have been better. But then those success stories that followed really helped me understand like, ooh, looking back, I don't like that, because
Yeah.
I know what to do and I wish I would have just done it back then. But this
We're
area,
all on a journey and we
yes,
all, if we can tap into those self-reflection moments, we can change and evolve and, hone in on our practices. And like ultimately that's what I say makes a good educator, makes a good clinician. So, you know, you're not alone and you're doing the right thing if you're taking those moments to stop and reflect. And I am curious. It sounds like you've seen the whole gamut. How do you specifically help your student clinicians plan for generalization within and across sessions?
yeah. Okay, so being the broad area that AAC is, I might have a couple different answers here or multifaceted answer. I have learned that my students are so, just as an SLP is that knows they're about to walk in to work with a client that has like cognitive difficulties and does not talk. Like I feel like students have reported that is like the scariest thing. How am I going to know that they even like working with me if the cognitive level is so low? They worry about that. And I'm like, don't worry about that. Just interact with them, just get comfortable. So we start with rapport building only, getting to know clients and families. So we get to know the families. I use several different tools for that. It depends on the client, whether or not the client's with us while we get to know the families, but I do like to have consultation sessions. I teach my students to do that first with either parents or spouses or caregivers, whoever is, the person caregiving the family, to get them to understand, because this was the biggest mistake that I made in the beginning of my career. I wasn't educating these families. I was just showing up to do the therapy, and then I was considered a babysitter. We need to tell our families why we're doing what we're doing, and we need to tell them how this could go, how we think it could go. So this could be slow if you're working with a young adult who's never been introduced to AAC ever, like a 23-year-old with autism. Well, now you have a parent who's only used like PECs, was trying to
Right.
get the kid to talk only, has
Yep.
maybe only worked with professionals that push just talking.
Right.
And those of us who've worked with AAC know that the talking it just appears if we're working with AAC sometimes. So rapport is first. And I have my students use different tools for this. They set up interview questions regarding interests of the client, of course. We ask about how home life and communication. We ask our parents to give communication situations that happen and where breakdowns occur. But for a student who doesn't know, like off the top of my head, I can come up with those questions, right? Well, student, I have them, if it's an adult, we fill out a communication needs assessment. I use a lot of Toby Dynavox resources.
Like the DAG3
Boom. Yes, that was the next
go
one.
to.
Yep. Yes.
Yes.
The
Yes.
communication needs assessment, the DAG3, because it helps families understand how
Yep.
broad AAC is going to be. It's not just about getting us to press
Not just
button.
operational.
It's not
It's
just
not just
operational.
linguistic. There's more
Correct.
to it, right?
Yes. And then there's the acceptancy piece, that psychosocial piece
Yeah.
that Patricia Dowden and Janice Light added later, which why are we not accepting our systems that we're using? Where's the breakdown there? Am I not being asked to use it? And I know it's a lot even still for families to look at that and go, oh my gosh, this is just overwhelming. But then to just tell the families that we're going to evaluate with you, whether and I guess this depends on your environment. I work in an outpatient clinic, so the families come, I get
Right.
the opportunity to talk to them. But if I were in school, it might be a form I send out every month. The parent and I kind of have to decide how the communication is going to roll out. But
Well, and like as an SLP who I had, you know, 12 years in the classroom, and then I also did some PRN home health as well. But knowing for a lot of my students, I was involved for a solid 7 years if they repeated kindergarten, and making sure that I was taking a step back because maybe I had the long-term goal in mind, but I
yeah,
need to be doing those check-ins. And it can be as simple as an email or a Google form sending out
yes,
to parents, like what you're saying, but just having those kind of goalposts throughout either the semester or throughout the school year, just that touch point, like you said, maybe I feel confident, okay, this is really slow and incremental progress, but maybe parents have something more pressing, like that psychosocial emotional component that
yes,
I'm not able to see because at school it's not showing up. And that's okay. But
yes,
I need to, as the clinician, reach out and make sure that I'm tapping into parents, but also, like you said before, planning for generalization within the staff at that school, right? Can you
yes.
kind of share a little bit about that too?
Yes, because we've done a couple projects where we've offered ourselves to SLPs in different school districts out where I live in St. Charles, just to I've had SPED teachers with the SLP come together and go, can you come help us set up a classroom? We're
Yeah.
struggling with this. And honestly, some people are doing a fantastic job. I'm like, so you're doing great already. Add this and this, but you're doing great already. Your communication piece amongst the family is kind of weak, but the way you have the classroom is great. So I've done this a few ways. I'm trying to pick the one I like the most. There's a lot of ways to do this. I'll tell you my successful story I had with a SPED teacher I was working with actually in Bowling Green, Missouri. So I worked out there for a little while and they have such a small district. But what I loved about that SPED teacher's method is, and I was very new, so this is like my second year in. Um, I freaked out during an IEP or before an IEP, and I was like, I haven't made progress with this guy at all, and I've never seen a kid like this. I don't know. She goes, honey, I don't know what I'm doing at all either, and I've been in this 20 years. She goes, I get to know each kid in my classroom. I spend as much time as it takes with each one, and the rest of the classroom might look crazy, but I have learned that in that fall semester, when they all come back, I have to work with each one individually throughout the day, and I rotate through them. And then we get a system set up, like this person over here needs this visual scheduled this time. So she was really individualized about her teaching.
I
And then
love that.
I love that too. And then what I found is over time, even if it took till spring, they all came back and worked as a group so
Yes.
fluidly. And I was in her classroom often, and one of the things, or a few of the things that I added that we found really worked is maybe we had a couple people on LAMP, and maybe we had a couple people on TouchChat, or maybe we had a couple people on Core First. But we chose a system that we decided to choose a system that worked best for her smartboard, which
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people in our field choose TouchChat because it's so socially intuitive for our brains.
Mm-hmm.
We chose TouchChat, and it really didn't matter who was on what system. The goal is usually when we teach in the class, a consultant will come and say, like, keep it all the same. We know we can't do that. Um,
Hard. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it is really hard. You're going to be
And
switching.
it's the reality of we have
Yeah.
many students in these classrooms who are on different systems. So,
Yes.
what would be your advice?
Pick one that the teacher can use so that she is just demonstrating the use of alternative communication.
Yes.
Have a functional communication low tech board at everyone's desk, at every table.
Yes.
Have at your centers, have a low tech board there. Create task bins where you have bins of toys. Put a communication board on top of
Yes.
those. I
And
love
also,
them.
what I say too is tap into those 5-minute fillers
Yes.
from ProLoco. They have the
Yes.
lesson plan ready. So if you have a sub that day, if you have a new para, if somebody is out of sorts and we have to do a classroom clear, we grab those tubs and we
Yes.
have it all right there. I
Yes.
love where you're going with this because it
Yes.
builds in generalization, no matter like no excuses,
Yes.
right?
And it's something everyone can just dive in and use. And they might need me
Yes.
in there to coach a little bit, but I will just coach for a little while until I see some good results. Adaptive books. I know there's like, I read, so students have been like, well, I read a blog that says you should never use those. No, use them. They're low tech. That's all.
Right.
And you have a symbol communicator on a high tech system, symbol communication for reading. That's what that is, and it's a low tech form. And sometimes a lot of our AU kiddos need tactile input. And I find that those
Mhm.
adaptive books with the Velcro pieces are they're so engaging. They're like,
Yes.
they love doing it. And there's a lot of fillers on those to teach different concepts. And of course,
Right.
you follow that with a hands-on activity, and there you go. And
And then incorporate that high tech in the next lesson, fade out some of that
yes,
um, adaptive book with this. You
yes,
introduce it first, and then you
yes,
fade it out. Then we're using our high tech system and, keeping that generalization piece in at the
yes.
top of our minds. Love it.
Exactly. And you can also create, like, you can put high tech on your smart board. I've done
Right.
like books where I have like pictures on there, and then the symbols are at the top of the book
Yes.
I made, whether it's like PowerPoint. So it's almost like adaptive book on a PowerPoint. And then their symbols are up there. And I've done it to where, like, I got my lamp users motor pathway up here, and I've
Yep.
got my touch chat up here, I got my protocol up
That's
here. So, and it is about us modeling and then being very positive. It's a fine line. I feel like we forget as we become more seasoned, even we sound so confident to other people. And we need to remember we might need to bring ourselves down a notch. I've made that mistake where I've collaborated with others who've asked for my help, and then I didn't know I was intimidating. I was like,
right.
I'm the one who's intimidated all the time. How do you think? But they don't know me. All they hear is I know what I'm talking about. And then they're like, but I don't until I see it work. So, I try to come in when I help others and collaborate with my classroom teachers or a teacher's assistants or paras or anyone who's in there and just be open-minded and ask them questions, why is this hard? Just why is this hard for you? And then we go from there and just being real with them, allowing them to be real with me about why this is difficult.
And I think that as classroom SLP, like in that role, when I experienced it, I didn't feel as empowered as I should have to have those raw, honest, vulnerable conversations with
Hard.
the SPED teacher and the paras. And that's something that I look back on and say, I could have done that. I could have come together when we have an early release day or a late start day and have those real conversations of what do you guys need me to do? What support do you need? And I think that, I did it some, but I wish I would have done it earlier. And I
I
wish I would have
know.
done it more frequently, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
That's how we learn, like we just
Yeah.
said, you do, that's how I learned it because I also felt the same way at a couple schools when I was itinerant, felt the same way. And going to the ATIA conference, I heard a wonderful presentation about a class or a school in Colorado where they had administration say, the SPED team needs to meet at this time, this day. Like they let administration do it because um
That top-down approach matters sometimes.
yes, it
Yeah.
does. It
Yes.
does. Because I'm not anyone's boss. I can't,
Right.
and I don't want them to think I'm trying to be. And dynamics are just so difficult
Right.
amongst people that don't know each other. You don't really get to know each other until you're, working
Until
along.
you're in the thick of it with students in front of us. And that's not the time to be
Yeah.
ironing out those details. We really need, especially thinking about that generalization piece. What's my role? What's
Yep.
your role? How can I support you? How can I create activities and lessons for you to use when I leave this classroom? Because I have other kids on my caseload that I have to see, right?
Yes. Yes.
I am curious, how can educators be intentional with those students and promote those skills and incorporate it in the classroom, thinking about those long-term goals?
Yeah. Yeah. They need that one-on-one time. So, and I know from going in this bedrooms, they are working one-on-one with the kiddos. And they just need to, and I try to teach a functional communication approach. So like we are all trying to do that. But that sounds it is such a broad topic to bring up. But I think what I've seen happen a lot is a teacher's seeing a child not using it and
Right.
they think it's going to be automatic. And if I can break down those areas of competencies and talk about the breakdowns with the teachers and where those are, I mean, even if a child doesn't want to do something, I don't want to, just
Right.
have them
Giving them
protest.
that voice.
Yes,
Yes.
give them that voice. And because I mean, I thought about this as a beginning SLP. There should be this structured method. And it's really hard because you can't plan a structured method for someone who isn't following the developmental line in all the areas. I mean, if you're working with someone who is 6 years old and their cognitive level is about 1 year, you can't expect anything more than I'm still learning communication. And I, as I say that out loud, I know that sounds kind of harsh to hear, but we have to keep ourselves realistic too.
Right.
Um, I do have to think about what it takes for I have to bring myself back to development and go, well, what did a 1 year old, how did they learn to talk? It was a cause and effect relationship. So I need to kind of build that first. I communicate, I get this response, or I get this thing, and just making it basic. And maybe just reminding teachers too that we might not be able to work on academics yet until we get that functional communication piece down, because otherwise we're hindering their ability to even participate.
And it's going to just look different.
It
We're going to
is
be
going to look
targeting
different.
things through play. We're going to be targeting things through those adaptive books, and that's okay. And just respecting developmentally, this is what's approachable to this child. So I'm going to make it accessible. I'm going to make it approachable.
Because they're taking it all in like we are. So yeah, we need to let them take it in and be repetitive too, and be.
And that's okay. It's okay to have the warm up song and the greeting song,
Yes,
and it's okay to mix it up after a month. Then it's okay.
exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
That's what that one sped teacher I was referring to told me. She said, it could take me 6 months with this one. And
Yes.
she was
Yeah.
like dead honest. And I was like, I stopped crying. I was like, okay, no one told me that in grad school.
It's so true. It's so true. And I know I had one class on AAC in grad school, and it was way more about like building switches and getting out the go talks. And like the
Yeah,
reality is that this field is and the scope is so wide that as
absolutely.
clinicians, we're always needing to learn more. So, Christina, what are some opportunities for growth and learning if a listener wanted to learn more on this topic? And then could you highlight some of SLU's speech and language clinics opportunities if community members are listening today?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to tell you, it took me 8 years to build programs. We are in such a weird location for a lot of people in the county, off
Yeah,
being Lindell and Grand, that after school, sometimes parents are like, I'm not going to get my kid out there. But
it's
some
hard.
some do, and we do offer Zoom sessions too, and we've had success.
Awesome. And that's going to build that generalization piece because the kid is potentially at home or at grandma's house or,
Yep.
with the babysitter that we're tapping into that natural environment already.
Yes. And I do expect if someone wants a Zoom session, though, that a person is with them because I need
Yes,
I need that training piece there. I do it in the clinic.
absolutely.
So, because in the clinic we offer, I have another colleague that will work with AAC as well, but I do a lot of sessions individually at first with the students and just with the client, and then we invite the parent in every other week to do some one-on-one therapy with them. So there's always that opportunity. I can conduct formal evals. We just don't bill Medicaid. So
Sure.
that's kind of a problem, but
Yeah.
our clinic, our university won't allow us to do it at this time.
Okay.
Um, and then also, so if private insurance, I can do billing. It gives our students a good opportunity too. I do a summer camp. So this summer we're doing a theater camp. We do them every year in
Awesome.
second week of
Tell us
July.
about that.
It's so fun. I'm trying to modify it a little bit. This year, I don't know if I can because I don't know if I have all the resources, but we do allow the students it's free. So it's a week and the kiddos come in the morning from about 9:30 to 11:30. We do some social communication activities in the beginning for warm up. We do a lot of fun dancing and singing. We do some karaoke with our devices
Love
to
it.
practice using the mic. And then we spend some time programming systems. We bring parents in to learn how to program. A lot of the kids we get, parents are still learning how to program. So they program in the lines. Then that's like the first half of the week. And then we get up on the stage and we practice our lines. And then on Friday, we have a big event where the parents will come with the costumes. So they create the costumes. That's like our whole, like, we are free. So you go ahead and create
Fun.
the costume, get
Yes.
creative, let them pick it out with you. But what I'm
Another piece of generalization, right?
Yes, and I feel like people love it. They think it's going to be this because the one I will say the one downfall is devices not having intonation patterns.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
watching a play is, it's monotonous, but the
Yes.
kids love it, and that's what it's about. It's about giving themselves a time to shine and use their voice, and the parents love it, and our students love it. Our university just loves it. I'm trying to learn how to use a green screen and create a movie instead of, yeah.
Ooh, that's fun.
So if I can't do it this year, I'm going to be doing it next year. I have a techie husband, and so he's going to help me figure that out. But where, like, if we did the Lion King, there'd be like a
Yes.
background of hyenas while they're using their device, and
Oh,
really
cool.
want to do something like that. Um, that would be really fun. Then do like a red carpet event on
Oh my
Fridays.
gosh, I
Could be,
love this. This is
yeah,
so awesome. Well, thank you, Christina, so
yeah,
much. And
yeah,
and we always end our interviews with this last question. Can you
sure.
share a story about a favorite AAC moment with an AAC user?
Yes. Um, this is a verbal experience. So I had a Gestalt language processor. We figured out he was a Gestalt language processor later. So I got him when he
Mhm.
was 3. And during the pandemic, we saw him over Zoom, and we were just working on device use. He was referred to me with apraxia of speech. I could see why someone thought he might have that because he had a lot of the characteristics, groping behaviors with his articulators. He would come out with some CV syllable shapes, but he just wasn't getting that verbal piece. So we had him on LAMP, and then he was wild. And mom was trying to navigate him on Zoom, and she was just at her wits'
That's a
end.
lot. That's a
It
lot.
was a lot at that time. And then I still have him today. He's 9. So this is why I'm telling this story. It's just great. He all of a sudden presses help on his device, which was so hard to get him to even touch it. And then he looks in the camera, grabs it by the face, and he goes, "Help me," in this
Oh,
high-pitched voice.
yeah.
And I'm like, "Mom, that was an
Yeah.
HELPME 2-word." She goes, "He doesn't have apraxia of speech." And I said, "Well, we're going to explore that more." But yes, I've heard of, this is when Gestalt language processing was just kind of coming back in the
Right.
field. And now that I have him, he has definitely shown the developmental process of what a Gestalt language processor exhibits. So he doesn't use a device anymore. Well, okay. He does use a device when there's a breakdown.
Which we see this a lot in the schools and total communication.
Yeah.
That's totally fine. We
Yes.
can, progress is not linear.
Yeah.
Verbal speech is not linear. And it's okay to have that breakdown and go to your Oddcom device, right?
Yes. Yes. And during camp, since he's still pretty, his echolele is fading, but we have him use his talker too. So
Sure.
rising
Yeah.
lines right now is tricky for him. But yeah, it was a really cool moment. I've had a lot of those in my most recent, like just the past 4 years. Just
Awesome.
yeah, the device really helped like learn communication and teach it.
Yes.
And it
And
even
like
helped divorce.
unlock the language, right?
It unlocked the language. It's just such a cool thing to see.
Yeah.
So, I think it's been really neat. All the journeys I've had have been so unique and different, and I could talk about them all day. But yeah, the last thing I wanted to say to
Sure.
Bridget,
Yes.
I am so open to, depending on what kind of crowd or what kind of requests are out there, like I am
Yeah.
about starting an SLP support group anyway.
Oh, yeah.
I need people that are expressing the interest. So I tell everyone that I collaborate with, so if
Yes.
and also if you're seeing an overwhelming need for like a specialized group of kids, I can take that on. So like one year I had a group of 4 moms who reached out. They all go to the same stuff together, 24-year-old boys who use
Right.
AAC. So I started a social language group for them because I had enough. So I can always, if your school district needs extra services or like is hoping for group therapy
Right.
stuff, and I have up to 4, I could even do 2 at a time, but I like that group up to 4 because it
Well, if
just,
community members are listening and other, speech pathologists or teachers are listening right now and you see a need, please talk to your OGCOM facilitators and they will talk to me and I will talk to Christina because SLU has a great resource out here for our community that we can tap into and, make these groups and provide for our community members because we know that school doesn't stop after a kid turns 21 or becomes a senior in high school. And we know that, the 8 to 3:30 p.m. is not the only times that we communicate. So it sounds like we have some lovely resources out there through SLU. And thank you so much for, sharing with your experiences today. Thank you so much.
you're welcome, Bridget. And thank you for all that your team does too. You guys have a wonderful team. I know you do. So um, it's been nice connecting with another person who's so interested in AAC and working with all these complex communicators. So thank you for all the work you do as well.
Laura here with your innovative activity this week, and this is a little bit of a two-parter. It's kind of hard to see. It doesn't want to show up because of the clearness of it, but this is a polka dot book. You may be familiar with them. They're super fun and engaging. My kids at home love them. as do the students I work with. But basically, the idea behind these books is they're themed, and then they have these little dots in the middle. And if you can hear that, you poke them, and they make this fun little uh, noise as you poke them. But all these books have some really great opportunities for carryover. They've got a lot of counting and basic concepts on the page. They've got the ability to have some rhyming words, some literacy opportunities, basic concepts. So this one's all about farm animals. And what I love about it is that I actually found some fidget animals in the IRC too. So this set of actual objects. So depending upon what level of symbolic representation your students might be working with, you can have some carryover opportunities for the book itself and all of the literacy that you might be doing that make it hands-on and engaging with the dots in the book. But then you also have these opportunities to carry it over and do things with the animals themselves. We could work on prepositions and putting them in or behind or on things, putting them in a sensory box, making noises with them, having them engage in other things, count the animals, looking at describing the animals. Maybe the animals do something silly, and then we can get a reaction from different people. Maybe we put them on someone's chair, and then when they sit down, they get a surprise, and everybody laughs, and we make a joke about it on our device. So, a great opportunity for us to kind of carry over some of the things that we might be doing in the classroom with curriculum and our language with our AAC system. So if we're working on core vocabulary, we might be doing things like push in or go go get it and touching these lovely little dots. And if we are working on gestalts, we might do something like let's do some more, or we're counting, things like that. There's so many opportunities. You just have to get creative. And these two things put together, the polka dot book as well as the animal fidgets, they kind of go together with a creative lesson that you could easily embed throughout your student's day. So check them out in the IRC.